So, how can the power of sound influence and transform culture? Um, Immediately, many people may go to the Psalms and they might say, well, David's songs transform culture. I'm an Eric Clapton blues guy. I go to 1970s blues rock and I'm thinking about the sound my grandfather loved, that he would listen, that he might have listened to. I mean, I know he listened to it. So, Cream, Eric, that sound. What does it mean? I know I'm not talking about worshipful music at this moment, but like the power of that sound, it meant something. It was relatable. It was influenceable. Like it influenced people. So what power does sound have? There's a spiritual aspect to this. There's some sort of connection that we make between music and who we are as a culture, who we are as a person. And what does that mean? Well, there's different powers to sound, as we talked about in Dan McCollum's God Vibrations. There is like the breaking power of sound, the healing power of sound, and then there's just the fact that everything vibrates. I know that wasn't a power. If you look at the chapters, if you look at the table of contents, he has, there's everything that vibrates, and then he has, the breaking power of sound and the healing power of sound. But if everything vibrates, then the power is everywhere. It's in everything. Maybe that's why music itself is so relatable. Because it's all vibrations, and we vibrate, and cells vibrate, atoms vibrate, and that's what makes it incredible. So the power of sound. I think sound itself is something that can be beautiful or scary. I'm deathly afraid of the sound of a gunshot. When I was younger, scared me. But the power of sound is an incredible thing that can engage harmful memories, or it can be musical. But there's something in sound that makes it powerful. And I think it's just the fact that everything vibrates, and everything was created by God and through God. As we know, the breaking power of sound. I think this is something that as Christians we don't think about enough. We usually think of music and even prayer and sermons and words as something that brings us closer to God. It has to be vertical, and it does have to be vertical. We do have to come into entrainment with heaven, and in order for us to use this breaking part of sound, we have to become entrained with heaven. However, we don't often think that the chains that shackle us, that the sin that shames us, all these things, can be broken by sound, by maybe it's a song. I personally have experienced in my own life when I'm anxious. Worship has been powerful. When you just start singing to yourself, when you just start praising the Lord in the time where you just feel so alone, so uncertain, there's almost a peace that just fills you. It makes me wonder if, all the times God would say something to someone and then they'd go do it, if it just took God's sound, God calling it out, to change what was happening. God's sound influenced. God's sound worked through something. When you read through Ezekiel, when you the Valley of Bones, he looks at Ezekiel and he says, prophesy, son of man. And then Ezekiel prophesies, and the sound has the ability, has the power to do this. And Ezekiel, who is in entrainment with God, was able to use the power of sound, and he could change. He brought up these dry bones, and flesh came upon them, and they became an army for God. So I think the power of sound is huge, and I think it culturally could be seen a lot different than it is. I think just in the Christian church it could be seen a lot differently. I think just as us seeing it as the old Hebrews did, unlike us, in our Greek mindset, of we got to think about things, we got to philosophy. Instead, if we just see it as when God says he will do something, he will do something, and that is just the power of sound as a whole. God Vibrations, the music course was amazing. I learned so much, and the power of sound is exceptional. The healing power of sound, the breaking power of sound. The truth is God can work through everything. He is vibrating through us. So there we go.